This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self.
Hey everybody, it is Rosie. I am so excited to welcome Gregg Ward to the Show Up as a Leader feed. No, we are not related, but we might as well be. His series is The Better Boss, Essential People Management Skills Every Leader Needs. And he really is passionate about this because he says leading people is a human skill, and I wholeheartedly agree. Gregg is the founder and executive director of the Center for Respectful Leadership. He is an award-winning, best-selling author of The Respectful Leader, and he brings a wealth of experience for real-world people leadership wisdom into every single episode. He is going to be breaking down one specific tangible technique that he leads in the work that he does per episode so that you can put it into practice right away. So not talking about things, not concepts, actionable, practical things that you can walk away and put into practice right away. You're going to hear what it looks like, how to use it, and why that technique consistently delivers result, many times with real life examples and demonstrations. So short episodes, practical tools, and better leadership starting today without overcomplicating things. Take a listen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Better Boss, the practical podcast providing you with the essential people management skills every leader needs. I'm Gregg Ward, your host and executive director of the Center for Respectful Leadership. Each episode focuses on one really powerful technique that's featured in our popular R-Factor leadership workshop. In plain language, I'll tell you what that technique is, how to use it, when to use it, what happens when you do, and why it works. I'll be interviewing industry leaders on these techniques and asking them how they are putting it into practice as well. By the way, if you want to find out if you have what it takes to be a respectful leader, why not take our leadership survey? It's a self-assessment called the Am I a Respectful Leader assessment. And normally, to take the full version, our clients will pay over $100 per person. Right now, for a limited time, you can take the quick condensed version for free. Just click on the link in the show notes. Again, the survey is called Am I a Respectful Leader? And I think you're going to find it really useful. Okay, everybody, let's get going. With me today is Amy West, VP Corporate and Customer Performance at Kentro, an IT consulting and services firm based in McLean, Virginia. Amy, welcome to The Better Boss. It is such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Gregg. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here.
You are very kind. Thank you. Now, you and I met many, many years ago while you were working as a manager with the technology company Booz Allen Hamilton. And at that point in your career, from what I recall, you were leading a pretty large team focused on the contracting process. And you were also being a direct liaison between the company and its clients, mostly large federal government agencies. I'm assuming, from the little I know, dealing with giant government agencies, that must have been quite a challenge.
It was probably the toughest position I've had to date and molded me and grew me in a way that I was fortunate enough to go through that as a proving ground and then take those skills into other opportunities within industry. I was there for just under 19 years and it was career shaping for me.
How would you say the customers treated you and your colleagues? Can you be honest about that?
I can be honest about it. I had a very unique opportunity in that I was pretty young when I started in the GovCon game, had been in the military. The Pentagon was my last duty station, and I was 24 years old when I ended up at Booz. And I was a deputy public affairs officer for the Navy Marine Corps Intranet, NMCI. And we were brought in to help them with that large acquisition, Category 1 acquisition, a very large, complex program. And in that role, I had the opportunity to be around and listen to very senior, smart people in the acquisition process, very intense sessions during the day, and then playing dominoes with these senior executive service members at night, blowing off steam, but also talking about what happened throughout the day. They were respectful to us. There was always a very clear line of contractor versus government. And because I had come from the Army and soldiered up all the time, it was pretty easy for me to lean into and understand that line. But I learned how to deliver hard messages in those types of situations by listening to these very smart people and delivering hard messages tactfully in a way that is respectful is a skill. And having the opportunity at a young age to just witness as I'm recording and taking notes and all of those things was really, again, forming for me. I had the chance to be a note taker in the source selection activity. And so I was a recorder because there was no AI at that time. So with our notebooks and our pens, we sat in a room and took notes and created that collateral for future reference. And being in the room is a very unique experience for contractors. And being in the room at such a young age was a real learning opportunity for me and something that was a jump off point and allowed me to make a career here. And so in the room, I had this commander there and he just looked up. I remember at one point he looked up and his hair was sticking out and he was like, I need more information. He said, can we call them? I said, oh, no, sir, you can't. We're in source selection. We're sequestered out here in Leesburg. You can't talk to those folks. And so I understood that there was a disconnect there between the people writing the evaluations and the people consuming that information. And a couple of years later, Booz asked me if I wanted to create a firm level service offering to help them proactively manage that. So by doing self-assessments for your program, much like we do in our careers for our own performance, right? You self-assess and those things become very useful for the folks writing those evaluations. And I was able to serve 700 to 800 program managers a year in that role, had the team under me who was responsible for working with them, and built a system and a database and a visualization and learned how to project manage with project managers, but then also learned how to have hard conversations with government folks when they may not have rated us fairly or appropriately. So it was a real gift in respectful leadership and seeing who did it well and who didn't do it well.
Wow. And something came up for me that as you were describing it, you were saying, here is your client with you, and his hair is literally sticking out, and he's so frustrated that he can't get the information he needs simply because the structures weren't in place for that to happen. And there were almost like barriers to getting that information. Have I got that right?
Absolutely. The people that were creating the reports on the ground and in performance and in those challenging, tough situations, if you've got a 5-year contract, you're going to get 5 years of, one report every year. And the people using that information, you got a GS7 in the basement of the Pentagon who's writing the report and has no insight into what's going on at Fort Huachuca or wherever. And you've got some general like, who the heck is, evaluating my performance? And so you got to make those connection points. But it's those higher level people that are using that information that have no insight. And the people creating the information are never in the room. So they don't know how their stuff gets used or appreciate how it's used in the future.
We call that distributive disrespect, where people are not providing you the information that you need in order to do your job to the best of your ability. Most people, when they think about respect, they think about interpersonal respect, how we interact with each other. But there's a whole nother part of respect which has to do with sharing of information. Are we collaborating properly? Do you have what you need from me in order to do your job? And it sounds like he didn't. And here you are just trying to, keep him calm.
It was a defining moment in my career, and it clicked so quickly because it's all the work, to get to 5 reports at the table. That's 5 years of performance. That's 5 years of program managers doing their self-assessments. That's 5 years of challenging reports or challenging scores. And how do you go to the government and say, I really deserved an exceptional here? You gave me a very good, you gave me a satisfactory. And again, they don't appreciate that those report cards are used to give us money in future selections and future acquisitions.
So essentially, you were, my word, triggered by that, and you made it your business to try to figure out how for Booz Allen to make that work well for the company and for the clients.
Absolutely. It was my manager at the time who remembered that happening. And like 18 months later, I had gone to another function, come back off the client site. I learned how to market contract vehicles, pay that contract access fee. I had a team of people who were responsible for paying CAF and learning how to market government contract vehicles. And she came to me, she's like, remember NNCI? Remember what a show, past performance was? I was like, yeah, I sure do. She was like, we need to fix that because we've got a problem over here in the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force, in USAID, in IRS, in whatever. Our reports don't look good and we're not doing what we should be doing from a programmatic perspective. Do you think this is something you're interested in? I was like, absolutely. Please get me out of this numbers game that I'm over here doing with, the contract vehicles and work with the people to affect change.
And how long do you think it took you to pull that all together and create a process that really worked?
I was in that role for a decade. We probably, in the first 2 years, got people like, I have an advocate in this. I don't have to do this alone anymore. And once I had them and it was earning respect and being somebody who was allowed in the room, right? Program managers are very about their business and who they let in from is it my leadership or is it some wonk who's just down here counting beans and telling me to stay on budget or whatever? Or is this person actually going to help me and my reputation for being able to facilitate hard conversations with the government because I could be the bad guy and I'm all about a script. I would do scripts for those program managers and be like, all right, how are we going to do this when we get in the room? Because I'm not there every day. You are. We need to keep you in the position of the good guy and like, our corporate people just make us go through this. I was like, yeah, frame it like that. Frame it like that. We just need to get around the table and then we'll be charming and we'll try to have these conversations.
That's so important. Scripting out. I'm always telling managers, if you're going to have a hard conversation with a client or with a colleague, script it out, figure out in advance. Don't wing this kind of stuff because you could get yourself in a world of hurt if you think, oh, I know what I'm talking about. And then you wing it and say something and the whole thing blows up. So bravo to you. That is one of the core practices of respectful leadership, a willingness to take the time to think things through before you jump.
Yes. And take your lumps, right? There's no perfect program. There's no perfect PM. I had an experience where we had a death on a team and the government was really annoyed by the timing of that and marked us as such. And it was so inappropriate. It was such an inappropriate use of the system and it wasn't in line with the intent of the process. And it was just a low blow. And I was like, are you ready to fight this? Do we want to fight this? I was fired up on behalf of my teams. And in talking with my colleague of mine, I was like, this is not right. But to put the team through that fight and to publicly and go have a conversation with them and all of that, I said, I think we just accept this and I don't think the team is in a place. And they weren't. And we accepted and I put together a very, not strongly worded, but I definitely put our disagreement on the page. But we didn't take the team through that because we didn't think there was going to be any good coming out of confronting that client and that customer who was really ticked off that his audit didn't go well because of the timing and there was such little grace and the team ended up pulling it together and delivering well there. But you also have to be real with yourself and what you're trying to do as a principal and like, I'm right about this. Well, you can be right all day long and still have unintended negative consequences.
Righteous indignation in the moment often feels really good and also can have some pretty negative impacts as well. I wonder, do you think the team member who experienced the death in the family, did they feel valued and respected by you?
No. In fact, it was a death of one of the team members there who was on the team. It wasn't even a death in the family. It was one of the team members who had passed there in the client space. And that's why we were just like, I can't believe we're getting nailed for that. Like, this is such it was just inappropriate. And no, I think the whole team felt disregarded disrespected. And if you want respect and grace, if you want your team to work for you nights and weekends and when it counts and all of those things, that's not how you motivate a team. And I think it was unfortunate. I think the team was better for it. But I think the best decision that we made was not going public with that fight. Like, there's a time and a place, and to respect the death of that team member also, they were like, no, we're not gonna go forward and have the confrontation.
I totally get it. So jumping forward, now you've pivoted into a really interesting role as VP Corporate and Customer Performance. Tell us a little bit about that role and the kinds of stakeholders you're working with now.
So in this role, it's really interesting and I'm excited about it. I've been here just over 3 years and I get to still do the customer piece with our government, clients, have those interactions about performance, but I also get to play in the corporate space as well. So I'm looking at our HR, people services, talent acquisition, finance, the executive team. What are the OKRs that we're marching towards every year? What are we doing for performance of the organization as well? And so I've never had that opportunity in this way before, which has been great to take all of those good best practices that we do for our customers and apply it inward. I mean, it is not rocket surgery, right? We are here doing business things, and all of this stuff that we want our PMs doing in those customer spaces are the best practices that we should be doing here. And so I get to play in this area. We just stood up what we're calling a business transformation office. And so I've got marketing and communications. So there's a corporate and a customer bend there. I've got quality and compliance. So I'm still responsible for the quality and technical certifications. Have a great team under me there who's just hard charging, former Army, really smart people who care, which you can't train, right? You can't train. It's very hard, I think, to train caring and all of that. And so that's exciting. And I've got an enterprise project management function under me. So it's exciting to me that having been in some of these larger organizations, also being in the Army and seeing how large scale operations happen, I thought when I went back to Booz Allen or at other places, like, this is going to be so buttoned up compared to the customers, because customers are crazy. But you get back to the corporate operations and you're like, oh, they're crazy too, in their own way, own unique ways. Like, they all bend to, nuts on occasion kind of thing, right? And so running your corporate ops like you would a project on your government site is just an opportunity that is unique in that HR special and talent acquisition is, but like, it's really not. The work is the work, and if we run it, like we do for our customers, chances are we're going to be successful. And having a leadership team that believes that, I shared with you, I spoke at the CMMC Accelerate last week, and I threw up an org chart and said, this is how we're aligned, and here's our 2026 objectives and what we're shooting for. And it's very rare that you see an organization that has compliance with technical and quality certifications as an objective and a key result. Like, they look at being compliant and having these as strategic differentiators, as opposed to a lot of organizations are like, we just have to have this to bid. We don't really care about the outcomes of the audits or the appraisers or what best practices we can apply. They're very excited to, like, what are you learning? What can we bring back to corporate ops that we can also apply to make us better, faster, cheaper, whatever the word of the day. And we're graduating into that large business space. And I came here to help Kentro do that with a group of, like-minded people who I've worked with for quite some time. And so that's been really fulfilling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about training people to care and how hard it is to train, or you can't really train people to care, which helps me segue exactly into what we're talking about today when it comes to the core practices of respectful leadership, the simple things that we can do. So the one we wanted to focus on today was essentially being respect worthy. And when I think about being respect worthy, I think it's about being honest and open, sharing of information. You don't have to give away company secrets, But you should be honest and open about what's going on so that people have a good sense of where they need to go. It's also about valuing the diversity of your team, what they bring to the table in terms of their knowledge and their experience and the lives they've led, and being willing to be listening to that and being open to that and not moving so fast that people feel like they're not being listened to. I look at it essentially is if you're going to train people to care, then you have to care yourself. Does that align?
Absolutely, Greg. And also, not only does that align from a established professional perspective, but also, I mean, I'm of an age, right? We've got a lot of younger folks coming into the workforce. I've got a gentleman who works for me. I think he's 24, and he came on as an intern. We hired him part-time in his senior year, and now he is one of the best employees I've ever worked with. I pour into him in a way that I don't with others who are more established, right? And I recognized early we were talking about he's my visualization guy and does all the pictures and Power BI and maps and makes it look awesome and easy for people to ingest like myself. And I said to him, I said, well, aligning it to the government fiscal year and looking at this and whatever. And he said, what is the government fiscal year? I was like, oh, it never occurred to me that these things, right? So acquisition, government fiscal years, like we started doing a mini training. Like I want you out on GSA's website. There's some really short training modules and you can get keyed into, but taking a moment, I'm really good for asking, like, what are we not thinking about? What didn't we talk about? What's around the corner that is coming at us that we're not even acknowledging, right? What do we need to be talking about before we hang up? Also, that moment in time gave me a different lens to look through when I'm having calls and say, does everybody understand the this related to the that we're talking about? And my guy is really good about like, I don't understand this piece or this part. Well, chances are somebody else didn't either, but he's got the guts to ask because I've made an environment where not knowing everything is okay. I think you and I talked about like the Venn diagram, right? I don't know what I don't know. And living in that little sliver right there and being okay with not knowing all the answers is huge. And that's ego. It's impossible for me to know everything, and I have to be okay with that. And because my people are so smart and awesome, and I respect them implicitly, it is easier to not know everything and to be okay with then saying that. And like, I've never actually been through this, guys. In your experience, what was it like here or there or whatever? And I think that gives them license to also be okay with being curious. And it's a, safe space or whatever, but we are okay with not knowing everything.
Isn't that great? I've met so many managers who are afraid to admit that they don't know because somehow they perceive it as weakness. And yet there are some leaders who get promoted into the senior-most positions because they always get stuff done, or in the vernacular, excuse my language, get shit done. And so that drive to always be right, to get stuff done, to achieve, well, corporate likes that. And so they'll elevate them up there and they forget that they were at one time, like you remembered, a 24-year-old brand new in that room thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know anything. And do I have the space? Is my boss, is my leadership giving me the room to ask questions? And it sounds like that's exactly what you do.
Absolutely.
By the way, everyone, this is just one of the many techniques that are found in our very popular virtual training program called the R Factor Workshop. If you want to know more, look in the show notes. And if you're ready to sign up for the workshop, then you deserve a discount. Just click on the blue button on the website and be sure to enter promo code TBB. That's TBB for the Better Boss at the bottom of the form. That code gives you access to special discounts reserved for our podcast listeners. Was there a leader in your life who did that for you? And what did that feel like?
Absolutely. As I said a moment ago, I came to Kentro to work for a woman that I actually hired at Booz to be a part of our team. And when I was interviewing her, I dropped an F-bomb, and I did not know until years later that she was so excited to come to our team and work together. We fell in love in that moment. I didn't know, but that was the moment where she was like, yes, I like, let's be transparent. Let's be all the things and be able to work together. When I came here to Kentro 3.5 years ago, I had been here maybe 8 or 12 weeks, and we were working through a problem, and there were other folks on the phone, and there was a retired Army tough guy, and he got off the phone, and we all hung up, and he mentioned to somebody else, he said, they really go hard for one another. The way they speak to each other, they're really tough on one another. I was like, well, that's how we work together. We are very honest with one another, and the tension between she and I is it works because she's a go hard, go fast, break shit, just fail faster and get to good. And I am a plotter and a planner. And so she'll push me when I need to be pushed, and I will pull her back when, like, hey, we're not thinking about this and this and this. I understand that you want speed, but you're about to upset all these apple carts if you barrel through here like that. And so she and I have just gotten abbreviated in the way we talk with one another. And so this other person was like, is Amy all right? Like, Bree was going real hard on her. I'm like, oh, Amy's fine. She does not care.
There's an example of two completely different communication styles, and yet you have so much respect for each other. You're fine with each other's styles. When you probably say to her, hey, time out, slow down, let's look at this carefully, she's like, oh, you're right. And vice versa, when she says, come on, Amy, stop wasting time, let's go. You go, yep, you're right. And it works. So that is the result of mutual respect for each other. And you had met her, again, if I understand your story correctly, during your very first interview with her, you dropped the F-bomb. Have I got that right?
I did. I didn't remember that I did, but she told me it was years later. She was like, that's why I wanted to work for you. That's why I wanted to work with you. That's why I wanted to come to that team. I was like, yes, I didn't know that. And I think you and I talked about, right? There's a time and a place. I am a soldier, and I can army up and soldier up and be talking, and I can also be very charming and very on my P's and Q's. And I think that's, you modulate as you become older and you figure out the context. And so I'm thankful that she came to the team and that we worked it out. But yes, we speak very freely, of course, when it's just the two of us.
Yeah, say some more about that, because you just clarified that. You wouldn't necessarily do that in a group, especially with new people who are new to the group, correct?
And especially not now. And I think I was so young in my career, and we were close in age, and there was a peer feel to it. She wasn't going to be above me. I wasn't going to be above her. We were going to be on the same team as peers. And yes, I was a little more comfortable, I think, and was giving her the real lay of the land. Like, here are the things that you need to think about if you're going to come to this team. And I was very honest with her about that. And she was very excited about it, which ended up being a career highlight, the way that she and I have followed and worked together. And the respect has really grown into love for one another in a great way.
The fact that you are cognizant that that works between the two of you, but if it's in a mixed group, you're probably not going to use that kind of language or behave in a way that others might look askance at and might cause a rift within the team because they don't understand. You're very aware of that.
I also am very lucky that I've come to Kentro in a place where people are pretty similar. We all have a pretty good sense of humor. I love working here because, well, they rarely tell me no, which is crazy to be in a place where it's usually yes and. But the people here are very funny. They're very good at what they do. But there is a draw for me, especially at this age where we get to choose where we want to be. And there is a time and a place, and with the people that you're comfortable with.
I've always used the rule of thumb that it's okay now and then to use foul language about a problem, but never about a person. That seems to be, most people are forgiving on that, especially if it's a really, what we call in California, a gnarly problem.
Yes. I think you also make a good point from certain people and certain groups and whatever. being female and being in GovCon beginning in the late 90s, she and I were just one of the guys in terms of survival. And you want to be able to be in the room because in the room is where the information and the conversations happen. I was a smoker in my young career, right? And I would sneak down when I was stationed in Korea. I would go around the back so nobody would see me because I was also a secret smoker. And Sergeant Major saw me. I was probably in country 2 or 3 months, and he popped down around. Private Youngs, what are you doing out here? You're a smoker. And we formed a relationship based on after he went and he would see me come down the stairs, and then he would come out and he would get intel from me about what was going on with the single soldiers and what's going on in the barracks. And hey, you want to do the Christmas party for me? You need to be running awards and so learning, it happens on the golf course. It happens, I think, more on the golf course now, but using those different, whether it's appropriate now or not. But I definitely had a lot of opportunity to use these more informal engagements to learn how to be the leader that I wanted to be.
It certainly worked at the time. And now you've adapted because you've got such a diverse team. You're very, very aware. And so you're making opportunities for people to say, I don't know. And here's what I think. And even, or to say, no, Amy, I disagree. Have people disagreed with you in meetings?
Absolutely.
And how do you respond?
You have to take it all in, right? If somebody, especially if the person that's disagreeing with you is the owner of that program, that thing, they have perspective that I might not have. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about your disagreement or why that approach doesn't work for you. Cool. Help me understand, like, this is a best practice and I've seen it work. Tell me why you don't think it will work for you and help me understand that because I might have another approach or a way that we can attack that problem. And so, no, disagreement isn't bad. The goodness is in the tension. And when you're in a place where you can disagree respectfully, have those hard conversations, then you get to gold. But you have to have the guts, right? To have the perceived conflict. None of us are married. We're not paying each other's mortgage. This is a job. None of it should be that devastating or controversial. But yeah, when people disagree, the tell me more, help me understand is my go-to.
Those are key phrases. Tell me more, help me understand. And you say them with sincerity and honesty and with a genuine kind of, I really want to understand. I really need this perspective because I know we'll make better decisions if I hear this different point of view.
That's right. And then back to I can't know everything. So if you feel passionately about this thing that I've recommended and why it's not going to work, well, that's another tool in my tool belt, right? Now I've got a brand new scenario where we're going to work through this problem and maybe I didn't have that experience before. So there's value in everybody's experiences. Also in this line of work, right? It is impossible to know everything about everything, especially when it comes to customers and I also don't know people services or talent acquisition. So help me understand your work environment. I worked for a woman once who was in the government and she came to take over this organization and the people part of it. And she sat with all of her direct reports for a full day as part of her onboarding. It took her a month. She had like 17 people under her. It was a big time suck, but she knew everybody's environment. She knew the systems they were working in. She knew where their stumbling blocks were. And she did that as matter of course for her onboarding. And it's really a gift to your future self if you can walk into your position with these folks under you and really have a good understanding. But that takes time and it takes an appreciation. But she really cared about figuring out what their day looked like. And I've taken that with me everywhere I've been.
And that's truly being respect worthy. She was just listening. She was listening really hard to what was up with them. And she created an environment where they felt comfortable enough to just let it out with her.
She did it up front, like as she onboarded. It wasn't waiting until something terrible happened. Let me get down in here and do my, analysis of what went wrong. It was, I truly need to understand what your day looks like. So GS4, GS12, didn't matter. 17 direct reports, 17 days dedicated, 17 lunches, 17 whatever, because then she knew. And then she got to know him personally too.
They used to say, check your personal life at the door. That was never applicable. It was never true. You always brought your whole self, the good, the bad, the ugly, with you to work. Now, you may have tried to keep it under wraps, but your behavior sometimes gives you away. And if you're constantly being chastised for having a personal life, how likely are you going to go the extra mile? How likely are you going to work on a weekend or put in the hours that are needed to get a project done? I would say less.
Absolutely. Not motivated at all. I think I could ask my team. We went through a rebrand last year and I worked those kids for 14 days straight. And I told them, I was like, we've got 300 and some odd documents. We've got website, like all of this stuff has to be updated and it's got to happen because we flipped the switch, this day. And they worked and Devin said to me, he said, Amy, I didn't expect to see you online on Saturday and Sunday. I said, kid, I would never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. Absolutely, I'm here. You guys are here. I'm here. Where do you want me to jump in?
That is truly respectful of them, because if you just gave them their marching orders and then you went off and didn't show up, that would send a message. And when something blows up in your personal life and you say to them, hey guys, something's going on, I can't be in today or I can't do this, they're all like, no worries, we got it. Do what you got to do, boss. Everything's okay. Don't worry about us. We'll be good.
That's exactly right.
At what point in your career did you observe that government person doing that, where she went around to every one of her direct reports? Where were you in your career?
It was my first customer engagement. It was probably 2000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
25 years ago.
Okay. So as you observed that, did you say to yourself, when I become a leader, I'm going to be that kind of leader?
Yes. To give somebody a venue to explain their environment and to understand where the gaps are, where you're under-resourced, where you're having a difficulty, to have a fresh set of eyes and a boss who cares about what those things are. And she was also a tough cookie, right? She was tough, but fair and reasonable. And I'll take reasonable every day of the week over impressive or this or that, smart or whatever. And you can be the smartest on the block and be unreasonable and not interested. You're so smart, but you're not bendable. You're not pliable. You won't flex. You're so wed to being smart and right. That's a turnoff.
And as a result, people keep their distance. They won't necessarily go the extra mile for you. They might even behind your back say negative things about you, and that doesn't help anybody.
Absolutely.
I'm reminded of what Maya Angelou is famous for having said towards the end of her career, that people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. I'm thinking you make your team feel respected.
I hope so. I don't think there are any truer words out there, right? I also feel like it's a privilege to be invited into a program. There are program teams that are hundreds deep and they're like mini organizations, right? And to be brought in to be of service to people, whether it's corporate, whether it's, on customer site, being consistent with your words and your actions, being okay with not having all the answers, but saying, I will get the answer for you. I will find out. I will circle back, and being consistent with that. Being honest about, again, there's no perfect program. There's no perfect employee. Things get dropped. And if you're honest about, like, I missed this, or I said I was going to do this and I didn't for whatever reason, but being honest with people about that and not bullshitting them, it helps you build credibility, one. And in those future instances where you need help, or if you're an honest broker with your words and deeds, then the opportunity to get help when you need help, I think also it just increases, and it proves that you're, human, and everybody needs help at one point in time or another. It's really important from a trust perspective to be consistent. If you can just come to the table, meet people where they are, man, they'll go to the end of the earth for you.
I think you've summed up what we call being respect worthy beautifully. So I just want to say, Amy West, you've been awesome. Thank you for spending your time with us and giving us your wisdom. It's been wonderful, and I can't thank you enough.
Absolute pleasure. I have watched you for the last 20 years, and the thought that I would ever have the opportunity to talk with you one-on-one, it's a bit of a fangirl moment because I respect what you do, and I've enjoyed watching you grow and do this thing for 20 years. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. That means so much to me. Okay, everyone, that's today's technique. Be respect worthy. In our next episode of The Better Boss, I'm going to be interviewing the head of HR for a large global company, and we'll be talking about the fifth respectful do, or common practice of respectful leadership, that we call looking for diamonds in the rough. And lastly, like I said at the beginning, if you want to find out if you have what it takes to be a respectful leader, then take our short survey. It's called Am I a Respectful Leader? Just click on the link to it in the show notes. All right, everyone, that's it for this episode. I'll see you next time. And remember, don't be a butthead, be the better boss.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.